Writing test cases for a mobile banking application and documenting them on Jira tool. I will explain you some of the important features of the app that would help you create the test cases step by step. Have you ever wondered how to test a mobile banking app? How to make sure it works as expected and meets the user's needs? In this video series, I will show you how to write test cases for a mobile banking app using a prototype template that I have created. You will learn how to test some important features of the app such as top up, pay, transfer, and withdraw. In my previous video, I covered the basic functionality test cases of the top up feature. If you haven't watched it yet, you can find the link in the description below. Now let's move on to the pay feature of the Jira software by Atlassian. You see inside this tool, we can create our projects, and I have installed Zephyr Scale, which is a test management tool. Also, I wanted to add that every app is different. So, based on the requirements, the testers need to test the app as per the requirements set by the developers and the clients. So, make sure to review and understand the requirements and then create the test cases and execute them. Here are some test cases that you can write down for the pay feature for a banking application. However, it is important to note that the test cases may vary depending on the specific requirements of the application. I am going to my pay folder in order to create and save their test cases. The first test case for the pay feature is to verify that the payment service provider is secure and encrypted. So now, what is a payment service provider or PSP? A payment service provider or PSP is a company that helps businesses accept different types of online payments such as credit cards, debit cards, e-wallets and bank transfers. A PSP acts as a middleman between the customers who make payments and the businesses who receive them. A PSP also takes care of the security, compliance and processing of the payments. I'm going to talk about the steps in detail to reproduce this first test case. Step 1. Open the banking app and sign in with valid credentials. This step checks that the user can access the app and their account without any problems. The expected result is that the user sees their account dashboard with their balance and transactions. The possible risk is that the user may not remember their password or username, or the app may not recognize their credentials. To prevent this, the app should provide a secure and user friendly login process, such as using biometric authentication, password recovery, or two factor verification. Step 2. Go to the pay feature and choose a pay from the list or add a new one. This step checks that the user can start a payment to another person or entity. The expected result is that the user sees a list of their existing payees or a form to add a new one. The possible challenge is that the user may not have the correct or updated information of the payee, such as their name, account number, or routing number. To prevent this, the app should validate the pay information and provide feedback or suggestions to the user. Step 3. Enter the amount and the payment method and tap on the pay button. This step checks that the user can enter the payment details and confirm the transaction. The expected result is that the user sees a summary of the payment details and a confirmation message. The possible risk is that the user may enter the wrong amount or payment method, or the app may not process the payment due to insufficient funds, network issues, or security breaches. To prevent this, the app should allow the user to review and edit the payment details, display the available balance and fees, and handle any errors or exceptions gracefully. Step 4. Look at the URL of the payment service provider page and check for the HTTPS protocol and the padlock icon. This step checks that the payment service provider is secure and encrypted. The expected result is that the URL of the payment page starts with HTTPS and has a padlock icon indicating that the connection is secure and encrypted. The possible risk is that the payment service provider may not follow the security and encryption standards and protocols, or the user may not notice the URL or the icon. Step 5. The expected result of this step is that the user receives a confirmation message and email with the payment details and receipt after entering the required details, such as their card number, expiry date, CVV, and verification code. This step verifies that the user can finish the payment process successfully. Some of the challenges that may arise in this step are that the user may not have the required details or the verification code, or the confirmation message or email may not show up or be correct. To prevent these challenges, the app should give clear and easy instructions to the user, send the verification code to the user's registered phone number or email, and make sure that the confirmation message and email are accurate and timely. I always double check the confirmation message and email to make sure that the payment went through and that there are no errors or inconsistencies. The steps to reproduce this test case are: launch the banking application and log in with valid user credentials. Navigate to the Pay feature and select a pay from the list or add a new one. Enter the amount and the payment method and click on the Pay button. Observe the URL of the payment service provider page and look for the HTTPS protocol and the padlock icon. Complete the payment process by entering the required details and verifying the OTP. Expected result should be that the URL of the payment service provider page should start with HTTPS and have a padlock icon indicating that the connection is secure and encrypted. The payment should be processed successfully and the user should receive a confirmation message and email. Next test case is to verify the payment service provider with different types of credit or debit cards. For this, the test steps are: launch the banking application and log in with valid user credentials. Navigate to the Pay feature and select a pay from the list or add a new one. Then enter the amount and select the credit or debit card option as the payment method. Then choose a type of credit or debit card from the available options and enter the card details. Then click on the Pay button and verify the OTP. The expected result is that the payment service provider should accept different types of credit or debit cards and process the payment successfully. Next, verify the payment service provider with different payment methods such as net banking, UPI, etc. For this, the test data is: use valid user credentials and payment details for different payment methods such as net banking, UPI, etc. And the test steps are the same as before. Launch the banking application and log in with valid user credentials. Navigate to the Pay feature and select a pay from the list or add a new one. Entering amount and selecting a paying method other than credit or debit card such as net banking, UPI, etc. Following the instructions on the screen to complete the payment using the selected payment method, the expected result should be that the payment service provider should support different payment methods and process the payment successfully. The user should receive a confirmation message and email for the payment. Next, verify testing the payment service provider with different currencies. For this, you need to enter the amount and the currency in which you want to make the payment. Select the payment method and enter the payment details. Click on the Pay button and verify the OTP. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should convert the amount from the user's currency to the payee's currency and process the payment successfully. The user should receive a confirmation message and email for the payment with the converted amount and the exchange rate. Next, verify testing the payment service provider with different amounts. The test data should be any valid user credentials and payment details for different amounts such as 10, 100, 1000, etc. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should process the payment successfully for any amount entered by the user. The user should receive a confirmation message and email for the payment with the correct amount and currency. Next, verify testing the payment service provider with different time zones. For this test case, the test data should be use any valid user credentials and payment details for different time zones such as GMT, EST, PST, etc. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should process the payment successfully regardless of the time zone settings on the user's device. The user should receive a confirmation message and email for the payment with the correct date and time according to the user's time zone. Next, verify that the payment service provider is able to handle multiple transactions simultaneously. The test data is any valid user credentials and payment details for multiple transactions. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should process both transactions successfully without any errors or delays. The user should receive confirmation message and emails for both payments with the correct details. Verify that the payment service provider is able to handle transactions with different statuses such as success, failure, and pending. Test data is any valid user credentials and payment details for transactions with different statuses such as success, failure, and pending. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should handle transactions with different statuses appropriately and display the correct status on the screen and in the confirmation message and email. The user should be able to retry or cancel the transaction in case of failure or pending status. Next, verify testing the payment service provider with different network speeds. Test data is any valid user credentials and payment details for different network speeds such as 4G, 3G, 2G, etc. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should process the payment successfully regardless of the network speed settings on the user's device. The user should receive a confirmation message and email for the payment with the correct details. Verify testing that the payment service provider is able to handle transactions with different user inputs, such as incorrect card details, incorrect OTP, etc. This is a scenario under which many test cases could be created. Precondition: the user should have access to the banking application and the internet connection should be stable. Test data is any valid user credentials and payment details for different user inputs, such as incorrect card details, incorrect OTP, etc. The expected result should be that the payment service provider should validate the user inputs and display appropriate error messages or prompts to correct the inputs. The payment should not be processed until the user enters the correct inputs. These are some of the most crucial functional test cases for the pay feature of a banking application. Here you can see the test cases that I have documented on Jira tool for both the top up feature and the pay feature until now. I have also installed Zephyr Scale for managing my test cases. Next, I will talk about the test cases for the other features of the app. In order to keep my video short, I will continue discussing the other features of the app into my next video for this same mobile banking application and create more test cases for the other features. Like, share and subscribe. Press the bell icon to get notified of my new uploads. Thank you for watching.